Ray Dickey from South Carolina, Hudson Valley CI, Association Help Now in many states. I appreciate everyone being here, including our panel. Manager panel discussion. Anything goes. And I absolutely love hearing from the audience. Anybody that's here for CEUs, let me turn this on. Oh, let me start the poll. Dave and I just did an hour live stream, so I'm a little bit thrown off because I just got done with one, and they can be tiring. I don't know if Dave, do you find them tiring at all? The live streams?
No, but you do most of the work, so.
Yeah, I know, I do. I'll be honest with you. Dave just answers the legal questions. So, if you're here for CUs, click which one you need. Everyone has a question feature. That's how you communicate with me today. Please send me comments, send me questions, ask anything. I don't use people's names. I'll ask for you. But that being said, maybe don't send me anything too top secret because I could make a mistake. But you should really feel comfortable just sending anything that you want to talk about or just comments. I absolutely love hearing from the audience. And let me close the poll. If I close the poll before you have time to fill it out, all you need to do is use the question feature and say, hey, Ray, I need CEUs. Really quick, I want to thank everybody that was at the Hudson Valley Expo last week. Awesome. One of our regular panelists, Thomas Ingblom, flew in from Florida and did a fantastic job. And also next week in Myrtle Beach, we're going to have a tour in Myrtle Beach, North Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville on legislative issues. April, are you going to make it to any of the events next week? If you're not, it's okay.
I actually don't know yet. A lot depends. We're in annual meeting and voting time. So
I was going to use you as a selling point, but now I can't do that because you're not sure if you're going to be there. Well, right. Maybe April will be at the Charleston one. Maybe she won't be. I can't guarantee it. But if she's there, you would love to meet. She's a great person to meet with. Okay, that being said, let's have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is Anthony.
Oh, good morning, Anthony, or good afternoon. Anthony Donadio, D-O-N-A-D-I-O, and I'm a property manager at Brighton Towers in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's a 171-unit mixed-use condominium.
And how many stories is it?
So 15 stories. It's, 13 stories and two penthouse floors.
Yep, and it's right on the corner by the Tropicana Casino, correct?
It used to be beachfront property until they built the Tropicana. Now it's dwarfed by the Tropicana.
That may be a long time ago, Anthony, to be honest with you. It hasn't been beachfront property for decades.
Oh, it was
all right.
Built in 67.
Okay. Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ray. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Ulm. I am a regional director with First Service Residential in the South Florida High Rise Division. I oversee properties mainly on Miami Beach, although I do have one in Brickell.
I always appreciate when people like yourself come on, Jeff, because you don't know me, right? So I just kind of contact you. And I appreciate when people have like confidence just to come on here. And I think that says a lot about people when they kind of just jump on. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. April and Anthony, they already know me. April's given up on me. She gave up on me years ago. So April.
My name's April Lips. I am a large scale manager of an association in the Goose Creek area, which is near Charleston, South Carolina, with approximately 4,000 properties, but we are not a high rise. We are a single family.
That's okay. I didn't limit it to just high rise. I think I wrote high rise and large scale. So, Joe.
Yes, sir. Joe Thompson with Acrisure, specializing in risk management and insurance for community associations, predominantly condominiums. I'm based in Florida. For those of you not familiar with Acrisure, we're the fourth largest insurance broker in the world. It's about a 22,000 employee organization with 1,000 physical offices in 21 countries.
Joe has a lot of short YouTube videos with me. Joe is great at giving short answers. Not a lot of insurance people could do that. Joe could do it. And he does a good job with the answer. They're legit answers, but Joe is very good at communicating. Has anyone ever told you that, Joe, or am I the first person? Be honest.
I mean, you're putting me on the spot now, so I feel like I have to live up to that. So I'll do my best.
Okay. He doesn't want to answer, but I'm probably not the first person. All right. Dave.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dave Byrne. I am the chairperson of my law firm's community association practice group, Ansell Law, and we represent condominiums, HOAs, and cooperatives in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
Excellent. And Dave, it's great to see you again today. Do you want to get together later by live stream, or is 2 the limit?
Yeah, night times are good.
Okay. Well, there you go. Anybody interested in hearing Dave and I just like talk back and forth, just let me know and we'll set that up for you. All right. I'm going to have Joe and Dave jump off if you guys don't mind, and have you guys jump back in. If there's something that you want to add commentary to at that very moment, jump back in by all means. But I like just to concentrate on the managers in the beginning if I can. And I am going to start off. Anthony, are you, very general terms, are you comfortable talking about with what you're kind of dealing with right now, or do you want to avoid that?
I'm comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just kind of, I want to start with Anthony because he has a very, maybe it's unique, maybe it isn't situation going on, but Anthony, go ahead. Why don't you get no names, not too many details. People are already like, what the heck is he going to be talking about? Go ahead.
I have a brothel existing in one of my units. She's a known prostitute, and she's bringing people in. And I mean, it's Atlantic City; it's a tough place, but this is it's a very good building. But we're dealing with, we're dealing with trying to, we have security here, but she walks past the security guards. We know she's a prostitute. The people in the building know she's a prostitute. I could say this because I have a deposition where she testified she's a prostitute.
Yeah, you're getting borderline what I'm not comfortable with you saying. Let's just keep it broad. Not any more details than that. By the way, it is a nice building. I just want to set the tone with the audience.
It is a nice. There's no other prostitutes in there. There's just this one. I'm comfortable saying it because I have a website, so I'm very comfortable talking about it.
Jeff already looks disappointed that he agreed to be on the live stream. He's already, oh my gosh, what did I agree to get part of?
It
Jeff,
sounds to me like he has some commercial activity going on that you probably have regulations against.
Well, Anthony, why don't you talk a little about that, how frustrating it's been for you?
I mean, a little bit about my background. I did 25 years in the NYPD. I was a sergeant for over 20 years in the NYPD. So I'm very versed with what's legal. I mean, I don't want to say prostitution. After, bail reform, it's been, I don't want to say it's decriminalized. It's still a crime, but no one wants it to exist in their building. She's bringing a real bad element of people, and it's been tough. I'm frustrated with the local police department. We've been trying to work something out, so we changed our security. We worked with the attorneys. We changed our security policy. We're trying to make people show government ID coming in, figuring out would deter it. And to some extent it did, but now she's walking past the guard. The security companies we hire, they won't engage physically to stop them. So pretty much she tells them no and she walks past them. So I'm paying the security company a lot of money to let them go up.
Right. And this has caused a lot of problems in the building. There's been a lot of disruption. This isn't like something out of a movie where like Julia Roberts is like, working out of her condo unit. You can just imagine all the scenarios on the worst movie you've ever seen is happening right now with racket, noise, undesirable people that don't belong in the building. Right, Anthony? It's an overall issue for the building and the owners in general.
Everyone's frustrated. In fact, we just hired another law firm just to deal with it civilly. We're going to try. He hasn't paid. He's in arrears over $20,000. So we're trying to foreclose on him. We're trying to get a rent receivership, but that legal process is long. And while it's been going on for over a year and a half now, she's been operating with impunity, and it's just frustrating for everyone, for the board, for myself, for the local police department.
So Anthony, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better or worse. Here's some comments from the audience. I had a similar situation. I'm leaving some stuff out where I managed a property. Everyone was always visiting the cousin. So I guess people would come to the entrance and say, I'm here to see my cousin. And someone else is actually sending in that they had an issue with a drug house, and they were successful with law enforcement, but the people just moved to another house now. So I don't think you're the only person. Jeff, what is your experience with prostitution? No, I know I purposely phrased it that way. Let me rephrase it so it doesn't get taken out of context. Jeff, are you shocked by this being in this industry?
No, actually, we have had several entertainers, shall we call them, doing their their recordings in unit, and that has become known, and it has been a nuisance that is very, very difficult to control. So no, I'm not surprised.
April, are you surprised by this?
I'm not surprised, but thankfully I've not had to deal with that one.
Yeah. I kind of did we could talk about anything, but I did start off with working with government agencies. And Anthony's very frustrated, and he even has a law enforcement background. Jeff, what is your interaction with government agencies? Do you think this would be maybe a different scenario based on the town or the neighborhood?
Perhaps, I mean, we have community officers that are assigned to vertical living down here in South Florida. So we actually have officers that we can call when there's a situation, or we might have a security situation like New Year's Eve. We might need some extra coverage. So we actually have go-to officers that my managers can access. So there is a little bit more, I won't say proactive, but we do have access to community officers per building.
But let me make this statement, and Anthony, you correct me. Anthony's very proactive. Anthony's a retired sergeant in the police department. He's not afraid to confront people whatsoever. Your security is limited to a certain extent, right? Though, Jeff, there's only, like, Anthony would probably love to throw the people out. Anthony, is it okay if I said that?
No, they don't come in when I'm here. They
Right,
do not.
right.
They didn't ever get past the desk. And once a week, I'll stop them and I'll physically remove them from the building.
Right. So, like, how do your security people handle it, Jeff? There's only so much they can do, right? And Dave, I hope you're listening, so when you come on, you can talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, the association can't prosecute anything that's criminal, only what is in their declaration. But when you have less than desirable activity going on, if you have a community officer that is willing to get in there, and I say willing, it's once again, it's part of the fabric of our high rises, because these high rises, they contribute a lot to the government. They have a lot of votes, so there is some pull there.
Great. And by the way, Jeff, just so you know, I know everyone else knows this. I'm looking at questions over here. So when you're talking, I'm not like playing games over here or anything. I got like a bunch of different screens here.
No worries.
April, you were the reason I kind of came up with this topic, because you deal with a lot of government agencies. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but can you give people kind of an idea of how much you deal with the government and how important it is?
Well, our community encompasses about 33% of our actual town. So I actually meet with our city administrator quarterly. She and I get together. I deal with the county on a lot of stormwater roads because we are not gated. We deal with the state. We have a lot of state representatives that live in our community that have helped us with some things. So I deal with a lot of them storm debris and stuff. I deal with all the county on that. So the police, we help our residents talk to the police. Most of them don't want to call the police, so sometimes I have them come here. So we do all of that.
Dave and Joe, why don't you guys jump back on? I'm going to change things up a little bit because I don't want to wait on some of these questions I'm getting from people actually. April, you have a very active relationship with governmental agencies. Do you think this would be a problem that you would be able to solve a little easier as far as the police department goes? Or do you feel you just can't compare? It isn't comparing apples to apples here.
It's hard to say. One of the things I do find that it's very difficult for the police this day and age to do a lot. I mean, somebody really has to actually physically break the law. And even if they do, they get arrested and they're let loose. I mean, they're let to go again. And that's where it becomes complicated. But trying to talk to the higher up officials does sometimes help put a little leverage. So,
Joe, if you're available, if you could jump back on also, you might as well come and hang out. Dave, I'm not even going to ask a question. Just kind of like run with this one, or maybe you don't want to run with this one right now and save it for another time.
Yeah, I mean, in which way? Like, what?
Is this an issue? I was wondering, doesn't this become prosecuting more than police activity at some point? Because you need a prosecutor to prosecute these things, correct?
Yeah, but the problem that condominiums run into, like I think maybe Anthony's talking about, is the police, whether there's a decriminalization issue or not, the police these days just don't want to, and the prosecutors, they just don't want to enforce criminal laws. They just don't want to do it. They don't want to have people filming them on their phones, locking people up and removing them from property. It's It's just something the police don't really want to do. They'll do something after a crime has been committed, but they're not. They just don't want to like, you know, deal with the sort of like broken windows type of crime that made Rudy Giuliani famous, in the 90s with New York, trying to avoid larger crimes by dealing with the smaller crimes ahead of time. They just don't want to do it. So in a building like a high-rise condominium, as opposed to an HOA where the individual misconduct of people can be sort of isolated in their home. In a condominium, certainly in a high rise, the condominium is in a position where it may have to actually take some sort of action and not rely upon the police.
And by the way, we lost Joe, so I see his connection's gone. So maybe he'll be able to make it back or not. Now, Anthony, I don't want you to answer this if you don't want to, because sometimes I have to be careful. So please don't. Same Jeff, April, always the case. You work for a management company, Anthony. It's up to you if you want to say who it is. And I'm going to go to the same question with Jeffrey. April, you're self-managed, correct?
Correct.
My question is, aren't you in a little bit, at some point, isn't the management company, you're kind of in a dangerous situation too here, Anthony, right? I know based on your background, you're pretty brave, but this seems kind of unfair to a manager at some point also. How does this translate over to the management company? It's not fair to the management company either, right?
They're frustrated like me. I mean, obviously the board wants something done. I want something done. They want something done. I mean, they collaborated, came up with suggestions. I mean, we've tried it all. Homeland Security, we called the DEA, you name it, we reached out. I mean, we've tried so everyone's frustrated. And I even last week, I met with the director of public safety, and he talked about bail reform, and that was his go-to. And I said, look, I don't care if he gets released, arrest him, just make the arrest. Let him know that he's being looked at. Maybe that'll stop it. I actually confronted him and I told him, I know there's prostitution going on there. I wanted to stop. We wrote the policy. We worked with another law firm. We wrote the security policy. We ran it by the police department. We ran it by the board. Everyone was on it. So we're trying to deter it. They got to come in. If they want to go up and visit the prostitute, they got to give the driver's license. They got to give an ID. And if they don't have it, we don't let them in. When I'm here, that's a problem. But if they walk past the guard, that's as far as we can take it.
And Dave, I'm getting background noise from you, I think, if you don't mind.
Yeah, someone's cutting the grass. I mean, I don't know. It's weird.
Can you mute for a second? Just kind of mute until it goes away, because it's very distracting. Jeffrey, I don't want to put you on the spot here too. Look, it's no secret that First Service is a huge company. You have a lot of resources, but is it really what other resources do you think could be available? I mean, I feel bad because I don't think there's a solution to this. If the police don't want to get involved, they don't want to get involved, right?
Right, and that is a major issue. If there's something criminal, even light criminal going on, that the police will prosecute. To me, it really comes down to whether or not the association if there's anything going on with the activity that goes against some portion of the association's documents, and I'm sure David would agree. If there's something that the association could chase the owner for, because a tenant or a resident is doing something against the association, whether it's a nuisance or commercial activity, and whether or not the association can get the documentation to actually chase the owner for something illegal and sue them, basically.
Yeah, I think Anthony has just about tried everything he possibly could try. So Anthony, we'll have to stay tuned.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most frustrating things in our industry. Someone is asking, would this qualify as a nuisance behavior? Dave, I'm not an attorney, but I would say absolutely, right? If anything isn't a nuisance, this must be people coming and going and causing disruptions. And Anthony, would you define this as a nuisance?
It is, yes. It's a nuisance.
Okay. Dave, how about legally? Does this fit the qualifications for a nuisance?
I think any credible evidence, if there's credible evidence of crime, I think it's a per se nuisance.
Wouldn't this be considered a business? Isn't it a notice of violation to have a business in a building? I think the whole problem is, I think everyone recognizes this is illegal. Dave, would you agree with that statement?
I would, but there are always issues with respect to covenants that prohibit, businesses being conducted in homes. That, at least in New Jersey, for instance, the generally acceptable way to deal with covenants that bar home businesses, the general way to deal with that is that if the business creates some sort of impact on the overall building, living, people, infrastructure, then it is prohibited. But the business where the person, makes sock puppets and, brings a box down every day for Amazon to pick up to go to a seller, that's not considered a violation of the covenant, even though it's a home business. Obviously, a dental practice inside a
Right.
high-rise community would be a home business that would be considered can have an impact on infrastructure, and certainly
Right.
prostitution would. Although the guests don't stay very long, so I don't know.
The I would assume I want to jump. I don't want to stay on this topic too long, Dave. I want to jump up. I would assume most governing documents have a clause in here that business can't be illegal, or is that missing quite often? Because
Yeah, no, I think that would probably be automatic. I don't know that. Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know what's illegal. That there are probably home businesses that you can operate that are illegal that you wouldn't know. No one will know about.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. If anybody else has any other advice for Anthony, send it in. All right, Jeff, one thing I like to bring up, if you don't mind me throwing this at you, Jeff, and we're going to change gears here, unless you guys are dying to stay on prostitution, April and Jeff, if it's okay, and Anthony, if it's okay with you, I'd like to move on. Jeff, what is a unique, and if you don't have one, because by the way, audience, Jeff didn't get any warning. He didn't know this was coming up. So by all means, Jeff, feel free to pass on it and we can circle back. But have you ever had a unique, unexpected challenge?
Almost every day. I mean, our business is so ridiculously crazy that a specific challenge, an owner that assaults people, that was a challenge. That was easy to prosecute. We actually had an owner physically assault receiving people because he wouldn't get his package on time or he wouldn't get his package fast enough. But in our industry, from moment to moment, things are very, very fluid. So every one of my managers faces a challenge every day that they weren't expecting just because of the nature of the business. But specific challenges, that's a little difficult to think about the top of my head.
The assault that took place against employees then of the management company,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this one,
and that was an injunction that was successfully made, plus a lawsuit that was successfully prosecuted.
And you felt the authorities did assist in this pretty quickly, I assume.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was a cut and dried case. So fortunately, that the police did come out and do what they had to do.
Did the person was prosecuted successfully, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did they remained living in the building?
When they weren't in jail.
When they weren't in jail. Okay. Were they an owner or a renter? If you don't want to share, don't feel like you have
no,
to.
it was an owner. It was an owner.
Okay.
That which made it more difficult.
But they eventually came back. Did people have mental issues, mental disabilities? Did the person revert back to their old ways, or did it actually solve the problem?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I came onto this. I was assigned to a property when this has already been pretty much not resolved, but being close to resolved. So it was something that I was involved in towards the end, but still shocking, I would call it, just to see that kind of activity. And the association did everything that it could do and successfully, but everybody was always on edge when that individual was in the buildings.
Let me ask you this. Sometimes I go with this approach too, Jeff. What do you spend more time on that you wish you didn't have to?
Explaining situations to board members that seem apparent to me because I've been in the business so long. Just how processes are and whether there's construction going on and what the impact of construction is. You know, for me, my managers is something we've known for a long time, or how construction might impact the building, and explaining that so that everybody understands and is understanding, maybe not accepting, but understanding. That's an ongoing issue.
Do you ever have anyone assist you in that task? Sometimes you find that you just need a little help to get the message across?
Well, usually I'm that person. My managers generally have to do all that work. They come to me as like, hey, I need some help, or whether it's explaining how things are in other buildings, so that the understanding each building isn't unique, and they seem unique to the people at the time because they haven't, the owners at the time, because they haven't gone through it. But to understand that this is how the business is, this is how construction goes, or any process, not necessarily construction, but that's big in my world right now. So it's forefront.
Well, it must be rewarding because the managers must be thrilled when you help them out, right? They're struggling, they're frustrated, and then
yeah, I mean, fortunately, most of my managers are extremely experienced, so they can get the point across generally, but it's not, it's not that the owners don't understand. It's just they have never been in this, have generally never been in this experience before. So it's just understanding the ramifications of anything new to the building, whether it's a construction project or having your pool redone. They haven't seen it done before, so they don't understand. And when there's disruption, people get upset, rightfully so.
right.
And it's like, okay, here's how it's going to go.
Yeah,
And just getting that point across.
Unless you've experienced a construction project as a manager or board member, I don't think you really understand it, especially if it's a high rise or something where it's right outside your window. Anthony, I'm going to go to you with the same question, and not right now. I'm going to jump over to April, but I'm going to give you warning. And you can't say prostitutes, okay? The question is something that you have to spend more time on than you wish you did. April, I'm going to give you have a little bit of time to think of it, Anthony. April, I want to take advantage though with your experience with the government entities. What is your biggest bit of advice? Do you have to kiss people's butts? Do you have to take people out to lunch? Or do you just have to give them all the facts? What is your advice? How do you make it work successfully? Or maybe it's a mix.
Well, I do not kiss people's butts. If anything, I'm the opposite. So I started this actually initially feeling that our community was not being listened to through our town. And that's how I started my interaction with our city administrator. I wrote a 3-page letter and then met with her about how I didn't feel that, our association was being treated equally compared to other communities in the town, and what we needed to do to work together. And that's how we started. And a lot of times when we meet, that's part of what we talk about. Sometimes things that happen within the city requires of me that they don't seem to require of other HOAs that I bring up. So no, I mean, that's how we started, and we meet quarterly, and it's good. I think it helps us all. It helps them get back with me, and we get things resolved, and now we have good relationships.
You must be a huge voting bloc though.
Yes.
So that must give you a tremendous amount of power with the politicians, right?
I think it does help, most definitely, when we have that, as well as, like I said, we have state representatives that live within our community as well. So I can get help from that as well.
April, I think a lot of people are jealous of what you have, though. You have 33% of the voting bloc, and you have state government elected officials living in your community. Anthony probably like, oh my gosh, he's probably got like hardly any of the voting bloc, and I don't know if he has any government. He'll let us know in a second there. Dave, before I go to Anthony, any legal concerns in dealing with government entities? Can a manager or a board member go over the line? Is taking a government official out to lunch okay? Is giving them? Oh, it's not. Go ahead. I'll just stop there.
No. I mean, the government official may have a problem. In this day and age, you should always assume that everyone you're meeting with is wearing a wire. But the government's problem is that's the government's problem. I often tell boards, especially in the context of like site improvement related issues, new construction, things like that, that sometimes the boards might be better off spending money on political contributions, cocktail parties for the candidate for the mayoral candidates, than paying lawyers to write nasty letters to people about how a detention basin was improved, or whether the performance bond posted by a developer should be released or should be retained. That couple $1,000 donation to a political party in a town might get you the audience you need. It's not a bribe. It's a legitimate exercise of political power and influence. And that's in some ways better, I think, than giving money to lawyers to write letters that I think oftentimes get thrown in the garbage.
Could a board encourage also owners, maybe don't donate the money, but take a leadership position and kind of encourage owners to take that upon themselves?
Oh, sure, that'd be
Yeah.
great too.
All right, Anthony, I gave you some time to think it over, and we're not going to let you talk about the prostitute. What is honestly, was that your most unexpected challenge? Was it the prostitute, or do you have something else?
I mean, that's just an annoyance. It's not really a challenge. It's going to get fixed. It's just going to be a long process. But generally, what takes up a lot of, I find compliance, like, parking contracts, insurance, making sure everyone has their insurance. This is an older building. I have people that don't even have email. So it's very hard, even though everything's vertical, it's very hard to get people compliant. And, I have staff that send them out, but to make sure everything, every time we go to check on insurance, when we have a big leak or something, that's the one unit that their insurance expired or was canceled. So it's very hard to stay on top of it. And even though they may get it, it's good for a year, but if it falls out, if we don't get the notification. So I find a challenge. It's very time consuming, just the usual point. Bike contracts, parking contracts, mandatory insurance, the HOA 6 insurance. So it just is not. I mean, that's something you can say I got a desk full of papers.
Yes. Now, Jeff, you deal with many buildings, correct?
Correct. I have about 10 buildings that I am responsible for. And to April's point, with your earlier question about what's one of the biggest challenges is actually getting our boards to understand their requirements, because the state of Florida changes what the board responsibilities are legally, and managers as well, on a year-to-year basis. So trying to explain to a board member why they have to take a 4-hour CEU course now when they have way better things to do in their personal lives and just trying to manage the association than to take a 4-hour CEU course that now the legislation has decided is really, really important. So be it. It's now the law, so they got to do it. But getting that communication across and getting them to do it that can be a challenge, because they have better things to do. So that's the whole legislation issues, which I'm sure are important state to state. It's really a challenge down here in Florida.
Oh, I think you have it the worst in Florida. Dave and I do the live stream with a bunch of attorneys from a bunch of other states, and one of them's from Florida. Dave, weren't you just saying you were shocked? You're always waiting to hear what Corey has to say from Florida, because it's always
they got a lot of a lot of things are more regulated by the legislature, by the government. There's less flexibility and discretion on the part of boards than in Florida that it seems like we have elsewhere.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to go to you in a second. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, between the laws and the crazy insurance issues we have down here, and how insurance is from condominium to condominium requirements, Florida is it's an interesting state.
Well, that's Joe's fault. We blame him 100%. We know he sets the rates and makes all the rules. Joe, I'm going to go to you in a second.
That's right.
April, what has been something that's been, I like to ask this question too. It's kind of related. Anything that causes confusion in your community? Can you think of anything in particular? Has there been an incident or an item that has caused confusion among owners, or maybe even the staff?
I mean, I really can't think of much as far as confusion. The biggest thing I would say, if confusion arises, is because people don't read. We send out notices and stuff, and then they don't read them, and then they call up here, and if they just read, they wouldn't be maybe confused. But I can't think of anything otherwise than that.
Nobody reads my emails either, April, when I'm the CI executive director. And then they're like, when's the event? Where is it? Like an hour before. It's so frustrating. Why can't you just read your email? I work on those. Is that how you feel, April?
Yes, we always say nobody reads. So
nobody reads. Does anyone on the panel work with people that read all their emails? It makes life easy. Okay. Except maybe for Joe and Dave, because they have to read their emails, because that's what they do for a living. Joe, I want to throw a scenario at you. I don't want to spend too much time on it, because I don't want to just talk about prostitutes the whole time. There is a prostitute living in a building. The association is doing everything they can to get rid of the prostitute. No one is helping. There's an incident that takes place that involves the prostitute. Does a legal activity, how does that affect insurance coverage? Does it, whether not the board committing it, but it taking place in a building where the board has been frustrated at solving it?
I mean, that's a hell of a scenario, Ray. I mean, I guess it's certainly a possibility to be going on in the context of a condo.
Oh, you
depending
missed
on
it.
the
It's a
city
real
you're in.
thing. It's a real
Oh,
thing.
okay. Well, there you go. That's pretty interesting. So, there's a lot of different nuances that could potentially be at play. I mean, depending on the incident, the circumstances, the variables. I mean, could it be, a general liability situation, a casualty claim? Could there be somebody that's alleging, property damage? Could there be bodily injury? Is it a DNO situation with the way the board's approaching it and owners are feeling like they're uncomfortable or aggrieved in some scenario, especially if they've been complaining? So you have to really always refer to the terms, conditions of the policies, because every policy is going to have a unique set of exclusions, terms, conditions, et cetera, some of which will not be specifically applicable to that scenario, but you have to be aware at least of the standard exclusions with respect to something like that, because you got to think from the standpoint of a claims adjuster, they're going to look at that and they're going to find a way, agent of the insurance company, they're going to find a way to try to not cover it. So you have to be careful with the ambiguity in the language that those policies come with when you bind.
Jeff, in your incident where this assault took place, how many insurance companies were involved in this? How many parties? Was it just one insurance company covered it all, or was it?
You didn't say assault. You didn't tell me.
No,
assault.
this is
I'm
different.
sorry,
Yeah, no.
okay.
Hold on, Joe.
Gotcha.
I don't want to backtrack because we talked about like 3 or 4 things that
Okay.
we actually have spent much of our time talking about assault and prostitution today. I feel bad because like Jeff's the first time he's been here and that's all we've spoken about so far. But go ahead, Jeff, as far as the assault that took place at your building, I'm curious, was there an insurance claim at all?
Yes, and I believe it's really just the association's GL coverage, I believe was the only thing that was affected.
Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty straightforward.
Somebody is asking me, would the insurance be related if it's an assault to like a workman's comp if it was a staff employee? Joe.
So the answer for bodily injury is workers' comp is always primary. So it really depends. If it was a third-party management company, the property management company would be responsible for their employees' injuries from sort of an indemnity standpoint or medical. However, if there's a lawsuit and the lawsuit names the association in any capacity, you're going to need the defense and potential indemnity from the casualty carrier. But the issue with assault and battery is that not every carrier covers it. Some provide a very limited sublimit associated with it, which is far below the $2 million general aggregate that you see. One carrier in particular in Florida does that. They're a carrier that's on an admitted basis, and it's a great company. However, they always exclude assault and battery for condominiums, and it's not front and center on their policy. So you have to be careful with what those exclusions come with.
If you're the victim, it's excluded, or you're the perpetrator?
No, if you're named, you're the insured on the policy, and you're named in some type of a suit that references assault and battery, you want to get defense and indemnity out of that policy, right? So that's something where you want that policy to be triggered. However, if somebody's injured and that's a third party involved in the assault and battery, if it's a property manager and say it's a self-managed association, the workers' comp would be the first thing that picks up the injury for that employee.
Okay, awesome. That's what I was kind of wondering about. All right, Anthony. Anthony, confusion. Anything that you find is very confusing with what you have going on in this industry and maybe your building and your experience. And Dave, I'm going to go to you too on something. I'm going to ask you, what do boards get the most confused about from attorneys? But go ahead, Anthony.
Some of my boards elderly, they don't understand why something's so black and white. They don't understand when even a legal tries to explain it to them, they don't understand why it just can't stop or it can't, everyone, a lot of economists, they always go to the violations and stuff, but, for our house counsel, they frown upon it with the alternative dispute resolution. They're very hard to collect in. So we try to stay away from enforcing everything with violation. I know it works for a lot of people, but and they don't understand. They think you could just fine and it'll stop. And I think that's what confuses them the most.
I will tell you, Anthony, I'm not an expert, so people shouldn't listen to me. I do a lot of live streams where the philosophy is not to always find people immediately.
I agree with that. That's my philosophy. We try to stop it. Just
depends on the circumstances, obviously, and what you're getting involved in. Jeff, I don't think I asked you, what is an item of, or maybe I did and I apologize, an item of confusion that you find that keeps popping up?
Yeah, most confusion, to April's point, comes from miscommunication. So, association passes a new budget, people don't read it, they don't change their the payment in January, and all of a sudden they have late fees. And it's just because they didn't read the fact that they have they didn't look at their coupons or whatever. There's confusion because the communication didn't work. And there's lots of examples to that, but budgets are always a source of confusion.
All right. I'm going to stand up for like the owners, April, and the residents. I feel that in our industry, management and boards don't put enough importance on the skill of communication. I find that they just throw things out there. They do everything else, right? And they use third parties for everything else. But when it comes to communicating something critical, like a large project coming up that's going to impact a lot of people, or a major assessment, or even a prostitution ring, they maybe have the lawyer write something. That's not usually a work of literary art. And it doesn't really work well from a marketing standpoint. Do you agree with me or disagree with me, April?
I agree with you, but I will say this. We actually have a specific job here that is the communications coordinator, and that is their job to communicate. So they, I'll tell them what I want to get out there, and they write it in a very good, hopefully, way that people can understand it. And then we do email blasts every week. We have a Facebook page we post stuff on. So it is out there. So we do our best. And it's not just coming from the board or even just from me. It's coming from a communications coordinator.
Wow, you guys, you really are awesome, April. I mean, you really are. I mean, seriously. So that's, you guys, your community is just, you guys are so on it. So good for you guys. Anthony, do you agree with me that maybe you don't, boards and management, they're not professional communicators sometimes. There's only so many hats you guys could wear. But we could sit here probably for an hour, right, and talk about every hat you have to wear. But I don't know if marketing is in your background. And sometimes I don't feel boards and management do a good job communicating. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. But again, I have a very elderly board, so they're not computer savvy. We're trying to update the list. We put a TV out there where we put it up there, but we'll shut the water off, and it will say it's at 9 o'clock, it's going, and at 10 o'clock, people call me up before checking the water to see if it's on. Like you would think before, to see if we turned it on, you would turn the water on, but they'd call the office. It's just, so yeah, there's definitely a communication lag all over. But we tried to, we print it, we paste it on the elevator.
Yeah.
They like to see it. When we make notifications, we put them on the elevator, we put them on the floors, we put them in the rooms. So there's got to be a better way to do it.
Jeff, I have a funny feeling in your job, this is probably part of your job, is helping your managers learn how to communicate well. How do you feel about this? Am I wrong? Am I not giving enough credit to managers in general?
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I've been in this business for 23 years, so not in my current role because I have very sophisticated managers, but I have seen plenty of times where the manager just did not communicate effectively, whether it's the wording of the message. And I've had it where boards have just told my managers, no, don't send anything. So there are instances across the board where this kind of communication happens. Good managers, good boards, they get the communications out. And then the owners don't read them, but still they get them out.
Dave, why do lawyers have to make things so legal-like? Why can't they just communicate like normal people? Can you answer that?
I think I can answer that. And I think the answer is self-preservation, frankly. It's lawyers have to provide opinions that cover a bunch of different potential outcomes, potential legal theories, possible surprises, lay out arguments of the other side, not because it's necessarily going to help the client in front of them make the right decision, but because it's going to cover the lawyer later when the outcome isn't the way the board wanted, and then another board wants to challenge it and maybe bring some sort of claim against the lawyer. And the lawyer will have to then justify his or her opinions. Did you tell the board this could happen? Did you tell the board that could happen? Did you tell the board it would cost this much? That sort of thing. So I think lawyers have to make things overly legalese, if you will, for self-preservation, because later on someone will second guess what was said, and the lawyer will be stuck defending himself. No, I told them that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have. No one says you did. Everyone's memory is suddenly foggy, so you're stuck.
Someone is asking, in law school, do they teach lawyers about communication? I guess they're referring to what I'm talking about. Did you ever get a class on how to communicate with people so they understand what you're talking about, or is it just all what you just said? You just need to do it.
No, it's a very good question. You get classes on certainly voluntarily if you take them, on your own, but you get classes in how to argue things in court, how to present things to a jury, which happens less than 10 times in your entire career, unless you're a criminal lawyer, probably. So no, you don't get that training from law school. That training comes from apprenticeships, from when you start working, watching what people do, from and just watching what regular people do when they interact with each other, from politicians to
Okay.
to just regular working people.
Joe, I find insurance reps are actually very good at communicating, but also they have to be very careful what they say, because you communicate with boards. If they're smart, they'll ask you to come and talk to their community about their insurance and try to, instead of handling it on their own. Would you agree? I do find insurance individuals very good at communicating complex, but I don't know, maybe because it's also part of sales a lot of times. I don't know, Joe, if you give me kind of a short feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be to a certain extent, because I've always said, to board members, insurance is the most important thing that you will ever purchase while you're on the board. So it's extremely important to understand exactly what each policy means, what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered. The key thing that boards need to take away is that you should not commoditize the insurance. It's not just simply a transaction. There's a lot more to it, and they need to understand that, and they're not going to have the help of an attorney. So you do need to have an agent that is clearly communicating and giving them the details of the coverages, not just solely focusing on the bottom line. That's part of it, and that's an important part, is to economize the coverage. However, we want to make sure that when there's a major event, you're going to actually have coverage, right? That's the most important thing, because the boards are fiduciaries and they have an obligation to make sure their owners are protected.
Somebody wanted me to ask this question, and I think it's a great question. I just changed it a little bit, though. I'll start with April. April, what is a skill set that you have as a manager that you feel you would have not had if you were not in this industry? And I'm going to ask Anthony and Jeff the same thing.
Well, the only thing I would say that has benefited me, but I have had it, for my other business before I did this. But I think the big thing is learning to communicate with all different types of people. That have different feelings, beliefs, angry, not, trying to deal with that in a calm, rational way. I've had people tell me they can't believe I don't blow up at people, and I tell them my skin is made of rubber. So, I just try to stay calm, and usually that makes people madder. But that's the one thing I deal with more in this industry than I ever have had was, nasty people. So that would be the skill set.
Jeff, I do a lot of these. I've done like 500, and I find that managers don't give themselves enough credit. They don't. A lot of them have difficulty with this question. What is a skill set that you have that you would not have if you didn't do this for a living?
Yeah, I have a very tactical background. So getting into the management business, my skill set learning was basically accounting, because I never really did any accounting before I got into the business, and the ability. So I knew I was going to make it in the business when I could explain a set of financials to a board member that had a financial acumen. So that was a skill set that I learned. But I will say communication is, everybody needs to be able to communicate, but communicating in the association management world, where it is so diverse, whether it's owners or board members or managers, it's a skill set I've gotten better at. But definitely for me was the financial side.
Anthony, has your skill set of chasing criminals through alleyways and taking in murderers and getting in like firefights like on TV and just being an overall like American hero, has that skill set transferred into the management, or do you find that you can't use any of those skill sets?
Oh, I find, to me, Atlantic City is a tough city. I feel comfortable here. I mean, the last manager quit because she was scared. She said, I'm not scared. I feel very comfortable. I like the people in the building. 90% of people are good, honest, hardworking people, and the other 10% are complete assholes. But I feel very at home. To me, I worked in Brooklyn for 25 years. I worked all over in every precinct. I'm very comfortable here, and I like it. I do it. This is a labor of love. I don't have to be here. I enjoy it. So I come to work. I mean, it's a little frustrating. I'm right now, we're at odds with, the police chief. We've had a difference of opinion. We've
Right,
discussed
right,
it.
right.
But I like it. Even the cops in here, this is like Brooklyn. Even the cops here, they're like Brooklyn cops. I could talk to them. I pretty much get what I want. I'm just not getting what I need right now.
Okay.
I'll eventually get it.
Please don't start saying bad things about the police chief because I live here too. So
Oh,
I don't want to hear you saying bad
I
things.
like, no,
I
like
know
it.
you love him. I know. We were talking about it.
I told him, but I told him, I said, I need him to be a cop again. I went back to when I said, he was a very active cop, Jimmy Zarko. I know people that know him.
All right.
I said, I just need you to be a police believer.
Okay.
He gets it, but he's like a politician.
Right.
That's not
Okay.
helping.
All right. We went right back to okay. Dave,
Okay.
Be honest. Are you typing right now?
No, I'm moving something around on my screen.
I knew it. I know you were dilly-dallying with something because you do that with your desk all the time. You're always moving things around.
Yeah, I'm trying to put something different. I'm trying to put some different icon on my screen.
Okay, can you mute or don't do it? One or the other, because it's annoying, Jeff. I could just tell he's getting out. He's like, I'm never coming back. This is about prostitutes and assault. And there's this lawyer that is like tapping away on his desk the whole time when I'm trying to concentrate. Jeff, did I ask you the same question about I wanted to ask your managers? What do you find is the one thing that they don't know when they get into this? Well, they're not new managers. You said they're all experienced.
Yeah,
I guess, is it all right? I guess your market is
So-
kind of expensive high rises. Is that it?
It is. Go ahead and ask
Yeah.
your question because I've had lots of different managers across the years.
Well, the reason I wanted to just let the audience know they were expensive high rises is because those communities are not going to put up with inexperienced managers. Typically,
Not at all.
I'll let you take it from there. You know what? But what do you run across that the managers maybe don't get that you have to kind of let them know about? But in your case, maybe there isn't anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot.
Yeah.
And new legislation, explaining new legislation is a big thing. Of course, I shouldn't say of course, I am the corporate interface between the buildings and First Service. So I'm the first level corporate. So a lot of corporate updates to my managers. But I'll say the one thing I've seen that most managers, when they first get into the business, they don't understand that it's not personal. You need to be able to let things roll off your back. As April commented, you get yelled at. It's not because they don't like you. It's the position you're representing. And that's the hardest thing for new managers, I think, is they can't please everybody, even though they try to. And unfortunately, my managers know that because no matter how hard you try, you can't please everybody in this business. And that's the first thing a new manager has to learn.
I always say, like, why do we have to please everybody? I think people are too hard on themselves in this business. I think they put up with too much stuff, but that's just me. But I'm not a manager, so I wouldn't know. But I don't think anybody should have to put up with anybody that's rude to a certain extent. But I understand that that's part of the business. So would I survive long? Probably not, right, Jeff? Let's be honest with that attitude. I'm not going to make it, right?
It's not even the rudeness. It's when you make a professional opinion and it's not followed. And you know it's the right thing to do, but they don't do it, and that's okay. It's once again, it's nothing personal. I'm being paid to provide my advice. If it's not followed, okay. But that's a learned response as well.
Anthony would love having me at the building because I would start all kinds of trouble, and then Anthony would have, because he's a lot tougher than me. But I would be right with Anthony. I would be starting all kinds of trouble. All right, I want to leave plenty of time for kind of closing thoughts because I want you to bring up anything you may want to bring up, and you may not have anything to bring up. I can always get Dave and Joe to talk about things. Trust me, they could fill like 3 hours if we really wanted them to, easily. But with that being said, April, it's kind of a hard one. And if you can't think of anything, what's going on right now? How do you feel about this industry? What is something you want to communicate that maybe people don't bring up, or maybe they bring it up all the time and you want to give your opinion about it or talk about it?
Well, I think we bring it up, but it's kind of like what we were just talking about. But the philosophy around here is you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, and the sad part is the way society is, and social media and all the hate out there. That's one of the things that I can't stand. That I would love to think I could change, but it's worldwide. I mean, we can't seem to change it, and having to deal with that, I think will have people shorten their careers. I think people won't stay in the industry as long anymore because of all the nastiness that's out there. They're going to just give up. And I think we're seeing it in a lot of industries.
I agree. And I think it's unfair to board members also, even more because they don't even get paid. The other thing I don't like is I see a lot of people posting pictures of employees. Like maybe an employee just closes their eyes for a second. They take a picture and they throw it on Facebook and they tell everybody, oh, look, our employee's sleeping. Because and it's just, I don't even want to get into the liabilities involved. Dave could probably save that for another live stream. Dave, I'm going to let you and Joe kind of maybe go last here in case the managers bring up anything that we need to touch upon. Anthony, you're dealing with a lot over there, but at the end of the day, you do love your job because you don't have to, you're retired. You do that job because you love it. But is there anything you want to communicate? You're just dealing with a lot. I could tell this prostitution thing is really bothering you because you feel bad for the owners, right?
That's a nuisance. I mean, I think the hardest part is explain to people when they get the increases, they take it so personal. Like when, I'm just doing the budgets and I got a lot of people on fixed incomes. It's not an affluent. So they think it's like we're charging them. I mean, it's just hard to explain the cost of, electricity and stuff. And, it just that I find that something a little frustrating. You don't want to raise them. I mean, the first time we gave them the raise, when they raised the insurance went up a few years back, we gave them like a 20% increase. I thought they would have burned my office down with me in it. I mean, that was a big increase. I mean, because
that's just a little frustrating. They own the place. That's nothing to do with you. You're not making a profit off them.
But they feel it's like right. People think I own the place. They're
know.
You own the place. I'm like, I don't own it. I have zero interest in it. I tell them all the time, you own it. You own 1% of whatever the share is, but they don't understand that. But it's,
now, Jeff,
just balance the budget.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I've only met you short amount of time, but I imagine your day, because you're very laid back and you're very sophisticated. I could tell. Long lunches, fancy buildings, fancy cars. People don't care in your world about assessments, right? You don't care. Everybody's so rich and fabulously wealthy and well-dressed and good looking. Is that your life, Jeff, or am I wrong?
I wouldn't say they don't care. If you can build a business case as to why you need to spend the money, it is generally accepted because there's a strong business case. So, but yes, wealthy people, nice cars, absolutely. But I do want to make a comment is a lot of the talk is we focus on problems. There's a lot of rewarding aspects to our lives, our businesses. We are problem solvers, so we get problems all the time. But when we solve those problems, when we help out an owner who's frustrated, it can be a very rewarding experience. So I don't want everybody to think that jobs are challenging. There's always problems, but it can be extremely rewarding at the same time, whatever socioeconomic scale the owners are.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I go visit management companies all the time and people tell me how much they love. And I tend to do these live streams and only talk about horrible things. So, but when I visit managers, there's beautiful communities, and people love working there and they're treated absolutely wonderful. Joe, really quick, closing thoughts.
Well, closing thoughts would be just boards, I think, and also managers need to be open to assessing, their relationships to ensure that they have the right team of advisors, right? It's critically important to make sure, from a business judgment rule standpoint in Florida, that you have accurate and correct basis to make decisions off of, and you want to make sure you're hiring the right attorney, the right insurance agent, the right management company, and all of those things are predicated on that person, making sure that you're getting the right team around you so you can make those fiduciary decisions on a solid basis. And I think a lot of boards, they just think business as usual. Sometimes management companies don't really encourage them to change any of the vendor relationships. And it's something where nothing is good or bad except through comparison, right? Just because it's always been done one way doesn't mean it's been done right. So it's important to have those conversations.
Shouldn't they just hire the cheapest person, Joe? No, I'm only kidding. Of course not.
There's some boards that think that way, actually, believe it or not. Well, you already know that. So.
I know that. Yeah. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm still trying to get people to do reserve studies. All right. Dave.
Crazy.
Last word.
Yeah, I thought your point earlier, I think, about making everybody happy was a good one. I try to do that when I'm dealing with, people in this context, whether it's boards or owners at a meeting or something. I think it's very difficult, if not impossible, to make everybody happy. I think what you can do, though, is generate respect for everybody, which is treat everybody with dignity, hear what people have to say, and then be honest with them. If you think their idea is horrible, you say, I just think your idea is horrible and we're not going to do it, but I appreciate your input. Moving along. And one of the things that oftentimes with angry meetings, that when I'm involved in an angry board meeting or an angry owner meeting, I engage in that. They let people talk, and then they're done. I say, thank you for your point. Who's next? I mean, you just can only do so much with people, but it's very difficult to make everybody happy. But I think you can make everybody feel like they've been treated with dignity and respect. And I think that's what you can do. But you can't
Man, I
make
wish you
everybody
brought that
happy.
up in the beginning, because I wanted to ask the managers, how do they develop an attitude of respect for themselves? Like, how do they make people respect themselves while doing their job? That would have been like an awesome question, because I think that's a skill set there. But I don't know. Maybe Jeff will come back. April, maybe he won't. I don't know, based on all the prostitution talk and assault and battery. Anthony, I will see you around town. April, I will see you in South Carolina. Jeff, will you meet with me one day in Florida? I like to put people on the spot.
100%. Next time you come down, let me know.
Joe, will you invite me over your home to spend the weekend?
Anytime.
He doesn't mean that. Trust me. He doesn't mean it. All right. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you so much. And I think we don't have anything next week, because I think there's a bunch of events, but we'll see everybody soon. Thank you so much, panel. And thank you, audience.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ray.